Hello, everyone, and welcome to another fantastic episode of the Whovians. And I got a good crowd of buddies here with me today to talk. Yes, we even have K9 here with us today to talk about the great episode, School Reunion, which is now about time I would call it a class. Let's see if we all love this one. All right, well, today we're going to start with Beefhead. What did you think of this story, man?
The story itself, it's a little bit inconsequential, really. The main thing is the interplay between the characters. It's and that is the heart and soul of the episode. The return of Sarah Jane. It's fantastic to watch. The interplay between the two is great. I think even the staging of it is very well done as well. I think the early part where you've got to beware of the chips in school anyway. The school dinner's never fantastic in English schools. Anyone who's been to one will tell you. So it's strange that chips are endorsed, and eating salad does do you good. It saves you in the end. Tell you because he's just started a diet. So anyway, you've got the doctor in the lunch hall, and you've got Mr. Finch at top. As the characters realise who each other are, there's a reversal, and you've got the doctor at the top looking down on Finch. Sarah Jane, when she's investigating, she's not really scared, and there's a brilliant changing in the music when she discovers the TARDIS. Then she knows, uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. I don't want to go too much into detail about what's said between the characters, because there's so much that I think that the rest of the guys will want to say. But it is a fantastic episode. One of the things I do like particularly about it is where Sarah Jane and him are talking when they first meet. And, she says to him, I thought you died. And he went, I lived. But in essence, she didn't. She waited. Her life has been permanently on hold, waiting for a call, waiting for that visit that will never come. And it's a joy to see them back together in this episode. For me, it's a 10 out of 10. I'll touch on more when we do the roundtable later. But yeah, fantastic, lovely episode. And I'll let some of the other guys speak.
All right, thank you, my friend. Beefhead, everybody. 10 out of 10. All right, we'll mosey on down to Lee Wilson. What did you think of this story, man?
I just want to say thank you for making me rewatch this today, seeing as I said, I've started a diet, and there they are, plates of chips on the screen. Thank you for that. I've got several things to say. K9, Anthony Head, and Liz Sladen. For me, those three elements there made the story for me. As Beef said, the story, it's the people in the story. Story's second place for me. The acting is absolutely brilliant. I've totally felt for Sarah Jane, because she was in love with the Doctor back in the day with Tom Baker. You could feel that. Well, it's just a marvellous, marvellous story. And to see K9 return, that's a little boy's dream, isn't it? And he's back with a bang. What else can you say? But 10 out of 10.
All right, another 10 out of 10 from Mr. Lee Wilson. Thank you, sir. All right, little Brian, what do you have to say about this story?
Good. I love it. I saw this when I first aired, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was the best episode within Series 2. Having Anthony Stewart Head as the villain. Actually, I found that surprising having Anthony Stewart Head as a villain, because I know him as Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so having him coming on Doctor Who, that was pretty cool. The story of School Reunion, I thought it was, I actually pretty liked the story, having the villains take kids, putting like grease on the chips, making the children smarter to solve an equation. I thought that was a pretty clever thing to do for a villain. And to see Rose get jealous of Sarah Jane, that was an interesting dynamic between those two characters. Seeing Sarah Jane and K9 come back, awesome. But at the time when I saw the episode, I've got to be honest, I didn't know who they were. I had to Google them to see who they were. Tennant's performance as the Doctor, awesome as always, in my opinion, and seeing him with Sarah Jane again, since she's a classic companion back in the early Tom Baker series, that was pretty cool. So it was pretty awesome with the episode. I love this story episode, the whole lot. So I would give this, you know what, I'll give it an extra 2 rating. I'll give it 12 tortoises.
All righty then, 12, which narrows down to a 10. So again, another 10. Thank you there, little Brian. All right, Neo. How do you feel about this one, girlfriend?
Who am I to stop a trend? But as I do love the episode, it was nice to see the guy who was in Buffy as the Watcher there. It was nice to hear Mickey scream like a little girl. The villain was good. It was nice and lovely to see Sarah Jane and K9. I actually was like, ooh, K9 and Company meets Doctor Who. But, then I was like, oh, wait a minute, it's Sarah Jane's Fifth Adventures. So I was just like, okay, this is cool. The story was decent. It was good. It was decent. The part where Mickey is in the car with K9 and they're trying to figure out how to get into the school, I love that part. We are in a car. It was kind of cool. What was the other part I was like? Where Sarah Jane and Rose were arguing, and they finally, it came to a head, and they started laughing like crazy, because half the stuff he did back then he still does, which was nice to know. That was like the past and present. I was like, yes, he still does that. I was like, do you guys want to be alone or something? And he strips bits and pieces of the TARDIS. So that was kind of cool. And then they laughed when he came in because he was talking so fast. That was kind of cool to say, hey, look, he still does this stuff now. It's the villain and the chips. Hilarious. Kind of makes you say, hey, look, it's best to eat vegetables because eating chips is bad. What can I give this one? I wasn't really going to give it a 10, actually. I was going to give it an 8.5 because it's not my best Tennant one that I like. I mean, I love Sarah Jane in it. And K9 and all that beautifulness. Who am I to stop the trend? I would give it a 10.
Wow. All right. Another 10, guys. Awesome, Neo. Thank you. Harry, you awake, fella?
I am awake. I am ready to rock and roll.
All right, take it
What
away.
can I say? We see one of my favorite pairings from the classic era. Sarah Jane Smith, K9. I mean, it felt so good to see those two back together again. And the way the Doctor dodged the question, John Smith? I knew John Smith once years ago. Until Sarah saw the TARDIS and she knew. She knew! He may have changed his features, but it's the Doctor. And oh, was it so good to see those two back together again. Anthony Stewart Head, like many of us, we know him better from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but Anthony is a very talented actor in his own right. In fact, one interesting piece of trivia, it was taught at one time that if many a fan wanted him to come back as the Master. And I think Anthony would have made a great choice for the Master. I mean, he'd be very calm, very sophisticated, yet he still got that darkness within him that would have made him perfect for the Master. And we got to see that in this story. Ratings-wise, 10 out of 10. I mean, it's just that great a story. I mean, everybody back together again. It's like old times again, and you can't argue with something like that.
That's true, man. That's true. It does bring a lot to the heart, this episode. All right, thank you, sir. All right, let's go to the Highlands of Scotland, I believe. Graham McLaughlin.
You finally got my location right, Mike.
Good
You
day.
feeling okay? Yeah, you feeling all right? All right, mate. School reunion. Well, what can you say about this? I mean, as many people have pointed out, it's basically one of the classics of the new era. Great to have John Leeson and Liz Sladen back. Anthony Stewart Head, freaking awesome as Mr. Finch. The Creatines I always thought were a pretty cool villain. It's just a shame they were just one of those one-offs that we got with, you know. Who always hated going to the headmaster's office when you were at school, you know? The poor kid gets into the headmaster's office and gets devoured. Absolutely funny as hell crap stuff, that, man. Absolutely loved that. But as I say, Liz Sladen made this for me, man. On the back of it, she was so strong in this. She obviously went on and got her own spin-off series. The one thing that I do like about this episode that nobody else has mentioned yet, and I know everybody, Rose is a Marmite to people. You either love her or you hate her. But I love the consequence of this story, how this was the end game for her. This is when she begins to realise, oh, wait a minute, this isn't going to last forever. I'll live her and die, he'll go on. That's a very poignant, you know, moment in the show when you're introducing the newbies to this concept of the so-called, you know, only God, Time Lord, which tenants there tend to personify. So good stuff there. I'm not going to buck any trend here, guys. Frickin' 10. Awesome. Watch it at least twice a year.
All right, thanks, man. A freaking 10 from Graham McLaughlin. Thank you very much, sir. All right. My sis, Carol Ann Swan, what did you think of this story?
I loved High School Reunion. You know, sometimes when you're in a mood for watching Doctor Who, you don't want to get wrapped up into, like, you know, a story. You just want to, like, sit down for an hour and just watch something entertaining. And this one is one of my favorites. I actually think this one is my 10th Doctor favorite. I mean, this is I love everything about this episode. You know, I heard of Elizabeth Sladen, I heard of Sarah Jane Smith, I've heard of K9, but I've never, you know, seen anything up to that point. So as a, like, new fan, like, you know, getting into the show, and granted, I didn't see the show until before the season finale of the 3rd season, because that's when I ended up watching everything as a marathon. And you know, when Anthony Stewart Head came on, I totally loved that guy. I mean, unfortunately, I've only seen him in, like, Buffy and in a couple of other little things, but, you know, I just think he's a brilliant actor. I love his voice. So when I saw him on there, I was like, sweet, you know, and, you know, and what's not to like about, like, you know, a robot dog, you know? I mean, you know, I grew up with R2-D2, now here's K9. I mean, I just totally loved everything about it. The dialogue and the meetups, like, you know, the look on, you know, the Doctor's face when he first sees Sarah Jane, you know, and when he's, like, walking down the hall, like, kind of doing memory lane. I mean, it was like, oh, wow, you know. I mean, it was actually one of the reasons why I started, like, researching on the internet, like, looking to discover the past episodes, you know, because it gives the new fans a realization that Doctor Who is such a long-running show. There's more to it than just, you know, David Tennant, you know what I mean? I mean, like I said, I loved every single scene, but, I mean, some of the scenes that I really loved was Anthony Stewart Head and the Doctor talking at the poolside when he was saying, you know, your race was, like, stood on the sidelines. You know, you were afraid of change. You know, these dusty, you know, aristocrats, you know. I mean, it was like, woo, you know, and then, yeah, I just loved everything about it. I mean, it was a great episode. It was, you know, come on, big, giant bat people. I mean, that's awesome. I love bats. You know, bats are one of my favorite critters, you know, so it's like, yeah, everything was perfect, and you just had a nice, happy ending. It was funny when K9 is the one who defeated him, you know, K9 to the rescue, you know, it wasn't the Doctor, it was K9. And, you know, then you have the happy ending at the end. I mean, it was just, this is perfect. I watched this one. I've seen this one now, like, over a dozen times, because when I'm in a mood for watching Doctor Who, this is one of the ones I put on. There's, like, 5 of them that I watch regularly, and this is one of them. And, you know, hands down, it's a perfect 10.
All right, perfect 10, Carol Ann. Thank you, sis. All right, the man with the beautiful head of hair. I see you. I see you. All right, Beef Dad, take it away, man.
This was an episode that was unashamedly designed to tug at the heartstrings of the people that have been watching Who for years. Bringing back Elizabeth Sladen, stroke of genius, everything planned, of course, because this went out on the 29th of April, 2006, and the Sarah Jane Chronicles started on January the 1st, 2007. So I think the whole thing had been planned, and it was a way of bringing Elizabeth Sladen and K9 back into the Who consciousness. K9 never disappoints, never did disappoint, and certainly didn't in this one. As Carol Ann said, when it came down to the crunch, K9 saved the day, and he always did. The rapport between Rose and Elizabeth Sladen, brilliant. Once they got over their girly argument, it was just so wonderful when he walked in and they were just laughing hysterically and couldn't stop laughing. At that point, I was laughing with them. When it was sad, I cried. When it was funny, I laughed. The Krillitae were a brilliant villain. And Anthony Head, I don't particularly remember him for Buffy because I didn't really watch that much Buffy. And he was absolutely brilliant. Yet the show, the whole show was just emotional. As Tim said, the story was possibly incidental, but I thought the story was quite good, and it was used again to great effect with Slitheen. So yeah, for me, brilliant, 10 out of 10.
All right, 10 out of 10. Thank you, sir. Beef Dad. Awesome. All right, we're going to go to our editor-in-chief, Jimmy Porto. Let's see what he thinks about this story.
Anthony Head, I liked in it. I never seen Buffy, so I didn't know him from Buffy. He does have a history with Doctor Who. He auditioned for the role of the Doctor for the 1996 movie. He appeared as Lord Valentine in Death Comes to Time, which was a webcast, which is still available on YouTube. He's been in the Big Finish productions, Excellus, I believe he was in. So he has a history of Doctor Who. I really liked him in this. It's a great speaking voice, great acting, the way he was trying to tempt the Doctor, saying that we want you to be in charge. You can bring Gallifrey back. You can bring all your old family and friends back. No one need age. No one need die. It's a good thing that Sarah Jane just happened to be there to talk him out of it and bring him back to reality. The story itself reminded me of a Scooby-Doo episode of all the running around and the mysteries to solve and stuff like that. Had a lot of humor in it. Beef Dad was right. This was planned. In fact, Russell T Davies planned to bring Sarah Jane and K9 back long before the TV series was brought back. He was planning this back in 2003. K9 to bring back because it was a family show and to get the children involved. And Sarah Jane to bring her back just to establish continuity. They talked with Elizabeth Sladen. She was concerned. She did not want to come back for just a one-shot cameo. She wanted it to be important, and he said, no, this is going to be part of the story, and it is going to be important. We're going to see what happened during the years that you were waiting for the Doctor to return. So it was all planned years ahead of time, and it finally came together. The interaction between her and Rose was actually believable, and it was very good. Mickey wasn't originally in the first script. We're in the first draft, which is hard to believe when you watch it. You think he was part of the whole time. I liked him in it. I liked him a lot. I've always liked Mickey, actually. But I can't give it a 10. I'd give this more of an 8.
Moment of silence, guys. Okay. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Jimmy, for that. Solid 8 from Jimmy. Awesome. Thank you, sir. All right. Let's go to Andre, man. What did you think of this story, my friend?
Well, first of all, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. The reason I'm going to do this is because I think that one thing that's been said here that really influenced me is the personal dichotomy of the story. I justify a lot of Rose's more self-involved behavior toward the Doctor and her romantic infatuation with him, I don't know if I'd really call it love. It's more like romantic infatuation to me. It's coming from the fact that she's basically a teenager. And stereotypically, how many teenage ladies out there do not actually have a infatuation romantically with somebody older than them once in their life? And a lot has been made about the Rose and the Doctor being a very beyond elderly character in the hundreds of years category, that was a little bit wrong, amoral. But putting all that aside, I love that speech he gave her about he didn't die, he regenerated. And also, I think it was great to see the level of experience. When Sarah Jane Smith joined the Third Doctor, she was young, but she was a grown woman. She had a career. She knew who she wanted to be. She was very sure of herself, but still had a lot to learn. This Sarah Jane Smith is a fully grown character who has had her own infatuation with the Doctor, but I think on a more deeper level than Rose did. I think maybe with Rose, it was more like the damsel in distress being saved, you know, as it were, from her boring life. With Sarah Jane, the doctors that she was involved in helped her realize how to become who she already kind of was and affirmed her, which was a good thing. And she was waiting for more of that affirmation for so many years, and she kind of was searching and in a limbo, and that was a great plot point. The Grillatane plot line, you know, I'm going to put a little personal story time into this now. The fact that they were manipulating the children at this school, I just want to let you know, I was homeschooled after the 6th grade, okay? And it wasn't for any personal, religious, or whatever reason. It was simply because I felt like the school I went to was taken over by the Grillatane, and it was just a racist vice principal. You know, ruined the whole thing. Ruined the whole thing. I have no regrets. Absolutely no regrets. And I remember looking at this and feeling like, you know, I felt like they were plugging us into some machine, and maybe they were trying to experiment with this stasis prodigium and trying to do this relativistic thing where people could live forever or whatever. It just seemed like there was an experiment going on at my particular school, and I kind of related to that. And no, that was not, you know, Beefhead is right. It was not consequential to the plot line. It was an interesting plot line, but not consequential. I love the Grillatane. But the important thing to me was the fact that they reunited, Sarah Jane and the Doctor, and had a great interplay with Rose. And I love Mickey in it. Mickey was great, and I love the tin dog scene. I wish I could have him say it, you know, we are in a car, you know, but I love that scene. It was just, I think because, you know, Rose, I'm going to say this, she really wasn't all that great to Mickey. Let's face it. I mean, she kind of threw him to the wayside, like, oh, well, now that I've got the Doctor, I don't need you. So he was kind of the tin dog. Well, I need you to hack into computers or whatever to do my work, but the Doctor is who I'm really interested in. So I think that it really put the personal dynamics and made it integral to the story, you know, because they were all trying to figure out this mystery, and they all had to deal with each other as personalities in order to do it. And some of them didn't like each other at first. Rose had this very juvenile jealousy of Sarah Jane Smith being there, and they worked it out and had a good laugh, you know, after that little girly spat or whatever. But I'm just saying that, you know, yes, I think it was a great story. I think the subplot of it, of the Stasis Prodigium, could have been expanded out longer. It kind of said a lot for how there's a lot of manipulation in the school system, you know, could possibly be a metaphor for the fact that, you know, standardized testing is thrown at children, like almost like an alien invasion sometimes, like we're just test subjects, we're not even being educated. But, you know, I think it's an interesting idea, but like I said, this is about Sarah Jane, the Doctor, Rose, and I guess you could say 2 tin dogs, the way Mickey's being treated, you know. So, I mean, it's just a great story, and it just has a lot of personal kind of interactions with it. And the story is actually a little deeper to me than it's projected on the actual show. It isn't projected as being all that deep. So that's why I give the story a 10. And that's the truth.
All right, Andre, a solid 10. Thanks, buddy. All right, Kevin, what do you say, man, about this story?
So this story, I was first watching it at a friend's house. I was at a friend's house, just meeting, and then I was like, oh, let's watch some Doctor Who on the laptop. What really odd thing was I didn't know who Sarah Jane was because I was only watching the new Who. And I didn't know who K9 was. Yeah. But now, of course, in this episode, I find out that she was a companion and K9 was also the fourth doctor. And yeah, villain was great. Also that scene when the villain looks at the doctor and the doctor looks back really serious. That was great. Pure good acting. Yeah, overall, for me, it was a good episode. And now I'm familiar with the old Who and the new Who, and I love them both, of course. So yeah, this is gonna be a 9 out of 10.
All right, Kevin, 9 out of 10. Thank you, buddy. Again, when this episode, I remember when this episode aired, but of course I didn't see it when it actually aired because they weren't, giving us really any Doctor Who at that point over here yet. But downloading it and not knowing, I didn't know this was going to be, I didn't even know at this point she was going to be in the episode, so that was a surprise when I first saw it. That was freaking awesome. But, man, really, you guys said it all, but I will say some extra things like this. This episode had children being killed in it, man. Not really shown, but little kids were getting killed in it, man, which was like, a holy crap moment. Right before even the title sequence, that little girl got eaten. Pretty deep. Pretty awesome. I love it, of course. You had Anthony Stewart Head, who some of us were used to seeing as Rupert Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who I was a big fan of that show also. I would say, man, this right here is showing that he can play evil really well, man. And like one of you guys said, yeah, he would have probably made a great master, maybe even still. But just that moment of zen when she sees that TARDIS, man, that creepy music kind of playing, when she sees it, realizing like, oh, shucks, the Doctor's here, and there's David Tennant, and they meet up again after all these years. You felt for it, it was definitely a tearjerker, for some of us that were, that watched her adventures with, the third and the fourth Doctor, man, It was really a tearjerker. But then again, also, I believe it was kind of a pilot episode for the Sarah Jane Adventures, which is cool because I have to say, if you guys have not watched the Sarah Jane Adventures, I mean, that show could get pretty evil at times, even more than the actual Doctor Who show, especially with some of their creepy villains, man. A+ Sarah Jane Adventures, we love you. Rose, who I try to, say she's cool, okay? But in this episode, no, man, just a look on her face. You know what really got me? When Mickey wanted to come at the end and like the look on her face, like rolling her eyes, dude. Very juvenile, man, Even if she's not in love with Mickey anymore, she grew up with the dude. Like, hey, man, why not, share it and show him a little bit of what's out there, She kind of came off to me, she came off like a prudy bitch, dude, It kind of did bother me, man, because I am another one that kind of I dig Mickey, man. I think Mickey's a cool character, man. And I'm glad where he went eventually. Awesome. Bless him. Great. I thought it was a great episode. It was touching. It had its moments. It had its funny moments. There you go. You got Rose being the lunch lady. You know what I mean? That's cool. Make her suck it up a bit, man. Make her actually have to do something. Have to work a little bit at a job, and sweat a little bit, Give it to her. But anyway, K9 in it, sacrificed himself at the end. That was sad, man. Of course, we all know that the Doctor, basically made her a new one at the end there for the series, for her new series. But that was a very touching moment when he passed, and how Sarah was so concerned about the Tin Dog, who for some reason we don't get in Doctor Who as of lately. Please, we need an appearance from K9. Come on, guys. And we need an update. I know some will say, is Sarah Jane dead or the adventure's still going or whatever, but at least, I don't know, a K9 appearance would be cool, okay? that can happen. Yeah, this episode for me, of course, is a 10. I really don't see too many flaws in it, man. That's all I can really say. I don't see any flaws in it. I thought it was great. The tone was great. It was great to revive a classic character this way, and then to bam, give her own series, which was great. And I'm sure we'll go into some detail talking about some of her adventures eventually. And I can't really wait to do that. So yeah, 10 out of 10, guys. Now the floor is open for anybody if you guys have some tidbits or some more to say on this episode.
The subplot about the chips was inspired by a 48-minute documentary, which is on YouTube. It's called Jamie's School Dinners, which British TV chef Jamie Oliver is appalled by the fact that children in the British schools prefer junk food over healthy food. They were addicted to
really?
the chips.
Naked chef.
I'd just like to touch on, I mean, yeah, Mickey Smith has the realisation that he's the tin dog, and you've got the scene with the car, but what I do like as well, that when he realises he's the tin dog, and you can make the fantastic analogy when he's, following the wires back for the computer, because how is he going to get the kids out of there? How's he going to shut it down? And as K9 often would do, while the doctor's trying to do something highfalutin, it's obviously the simple thing that's right in front of his face. He just pulls the plug out and all the computers decide to blow up. It's easy in some respects to sort of be negative towards Rose, but I think that's the thing. You've got a fully grown woman, and you see what has happened when her time travelling with the doctor has ended. And after they have their little, top trumps moment, between each other, who's got the better adventure with the doctor, her character has, in essence, to that point, been built up by the doctor. He hasn't, he's not talked about his previous companions. She hasn't seen what happens to it and what ending. So, there's that sort of realization to her by the end of it that is a bit of a change around for her character. So, you have to have an element of growth to Rose, and that's what this episode is. It's got the feels, of course it has. You could say, it's a bit twee, K9 showing up at the end, but because he's so loved, you forgive it. It's not like, you have an emotional investment in K9, right, which you didn't have, say, with the most recent series, with the girl appearing out of the magic bush at the end of the episode in the Forest of the Night. You can forgive that because it's K9. And like I say, this, Russell T Davies, he does write emotional heartstringing stuff very well, and the ringing of it. So episode where he that's the thing as well. There's obviously all the thematic things in what's said about aging, getting old. There's constant references to that, and when the doctor talks about someone getting old, he talks about humans decaying. In essence. So the idea of that actually. Decay, that's like an ugly descriptive word. It's something that repulses him, reviles him, and he gets to the point where he nearly uses the L word. And you do get that sort of feeling that there is that unwritten sort of Ross and Rachel thing with him and Sarah Jane. But it hits all the right beats.
You guys all know that I'm not a Rose fan. I mean, I liked Rose with Eccleston, and then once she started with, Tennant, I just started hating her. I just don't like her. But what I really liked about High School Reunion is Rose really doesn't do much in this one. I mean, she figured out the Krillitane oil, when that, like, one of the lunch ladies blew up or whatever, But if you think about it, they really didn't. It was kind of like a collaboration of everybody helping out. It wasn't the doctor saving the day. It wasn't this person. It wasn't one thing. It was like a tag team effort because, the doctor helped defeat, Anthony Stewart Head's character, and then K9 is the one that saved the day by blowing everybody up. But that kid, the comic relief kid who wasn't allowed to eat the, potato chips, or what do you guys call it? Chips, French fries. When they're all sitting there and they're trying, and they're all like trapped, and they're like, how do you? Doctor's like, how do you stop bats? How do you stop bats? It's like, well, duh. The kid goes up and the echolocation thing by pulling the fire alarm. And here's a little kid that's not even eating the chips, and he was smart enough to know how to stop the bats. So I mean, there's so much about this episode that's like great. In a whole, the whole thing is like just so perfect.
One other thing I would like to mention as well, Tony Head, we've spoken about Buffy. He was also in a very popular series of commercials in the UK for Gold Blend coffee.
Oh,
Other brands are available. So he was a very well-known face anyway, aside from other acting roles in British TV for that. But also his physicality. You get he's very ramrod straight. And if you look at the scene when he's on the rooftop overlooking the cafe, his moves and his body mirrors that of the winged Krillitane next to him. And obviously, his head movements, he's very good. It's very, very physically controlled, which gives you the aspect that he is evil, he's alien, he's not of this earth. So he's very, very good, even without saying anything. That his presence is fantastic in that episode.
Yeah, and he also did Taster's Choice commercials. It was the same kind of commercials. It was like here in the 80s, it was like our 80s or 90s, it was almost like a soap opera where every week me and my mom would watch at the same time to see like, how the story is progressing, and it was for Taster's Choice.
One of the things that really amused me, Carol Ann brought it up, was the point where one of the fake dinner ladies spilled the Krillitane oil on herself, and they rushed her off into this side room and shut down the blind. And then there was this incredible scream, and one of the others was sort of leaning out of the door, looked at Rose and said, "She does that." For me, that was a real laugh out loud moment. And quite a few of those in there.
The script was written by Toby Whithouse, who created a medical comedy drama called No Angels.
The reference at the end where Sarah Jane and the doctor were talking, it kind of reminded me of Hand of Fear. They just switched their words or something.
And at the very end, when Sarah Jane says to K9, "Come on, K9, we've got a lot of work to do." That's the very last thing Sylvester McCoy's doctor said in his very last episode to Ace. We've got a lot of work to do.
But no spoilers, whatever. This has all been aired. But after this episode, Sarah Jane bumps into the doctor quite a few times after.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us here, everybody. It's been a good time, man. It was nice hearing everybody's opinions on this episode. School reunion, man. Cool. Seems like everybody kind of liked this one a lot. So awesome. And I just want to say to you, everyone, keep on hooing.